In a few months, The Last of Us 2 will be released, and the story of Ellie and Joel will continue. But perhaps you never played the original, or it's been nearly 7 years. I can barely remember what I ate yesterday, let alone a game I played 7 years ago. I think it was tacos. Whatever the case, you may be looking for a refresher before diving into the sequel. Luckily, I'm here to catch you up to speed in my own particular way. I am so sorry. Naturally, there are spoilers ahead, so if you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead and walk away now. Now that they're gone, how about you throw on your PJs, hop into bed, get tucked in, and let me tell you a story. The story of The Last of Us. We open on a girl named Sarah and her dad Joel, who are basically one of the most adorable father-daughter combos ever.
Where did you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
Oh, good. You started helping out with the mortgage then.
Yeah, you wish.
See what I mean? Don't get attached. After falling asleep, Sarah is woken up by a phone call from her Uncle Tommy. In a panic, he asks to speak with Joel before the call suddenly gets cut off. Ugh, Verizon, am I right? Also landline, lols. Sarah gets up and goes searching for Joel, but can't seem to find him. She does, however, see a newsfeed talking about an infection, hears a gunshot outside, sees some cops drive by, and finds Joel's phone with a bunch of missed calls and messages. Either something is wrong or Joel is on one hell of a bender. She eventually finds him as he runs in and grabs a gun seconds before his annoying neighbor just lets himself in. Damn it, Jimmy, ring the doorbell! Realizing something bad is happening, the two run out and find Tommy waiting for them. They hop into his car and try to head out of the city, but unfortunately, traffic during the apocalypse is kind of a bitch. Road rage is also apparently a very real thing. Deciding to find an alternate route, they get a very warm welcome to Texas drivers. Howdy! For the most part, everyone is fine except for Sarah, who now needs to be carried. They run through the city as all hell breaks loose, though honestly this is just how Texas reacts if it starts raining even a little. Joel takes a back road to the highway, and just as it looks like he's about to get at, the military shows up to save them. Kinda. Luckily, Joel is simply grazed, and before the soldier can deliver the killing shot, Tommy gives him something to think about. A bullet. But Sarah, she wasn't so lucky. No jokes here. This sucks and is sad and I hate it and I can't watch this. I'm gonna go hug my daughter now. 20 years later, Joel is woken up by his friend and fellow smuggling partner Tess. She was on her way back from a drop when she was attacked by some thugs sent by their main competitor, weapons dealer, it's not super clear, Robert. Joel and Tess decide it's time for some payback, so they head out to pay Bob a visit. Along the way, you start to see how this new world runs. Military rule, curfews, checkpoints, rebellions. Basically my household. Due to the explosions and gunfire, Joel and Tess decide to maybe not use the streets and make their way to Bob's place by going through buildings, some secret underground tunnels, and even end up outside the quarantine zone, which has been overrun by plants. In more ways than one, am I right? On that note, you're also given a glimpse of what really happened to the world. Zombies. Namely, fungal spores that infect the brain and take over the body, basically making people zombies. Think of it as somebody who comes into your life and starts changing the way you think and act, and you start eating your friends. You know the type, you've probably dated someone like that. So you've got to sneaky sneak and shooty shoot your way through them. The two eventually make their way back into the city and find Bob's crew. They have a nice chat and resolve their differences peacefully. Damn! Hashtag Tess shot first. They catch up to Bob, who tries to run away, but Bob has a problem with his knee. Tess. And his arm. Joel. See, Bob owed Joel and Tess some weapons, but he gave them to a group of rebels called the Fireflies, gorammit. So Tess deals with Bob in a appropriate manner. Seems appropriate. Luckily, a Firefly named Marlene just happens to be chilling literally around the corner. That's convenient. Unlikely. Tess and Joel ask for their guns back, but Marlene says no unless they smuggle something out of the city for her. And if they do, she'll give them double. So they agree and head off to the Firefly base, dodging and strangling soldiers along the way. Shh, it's okay. I'm the good guy. However, instead of leading them to the Firefly base, Marlene takes them to a safe house where they find a young girl waiting to stab them. Once again, basically my household, like every time I come home from work. This girl's name is Ellie, and she is the cargo that Marlene is needing smuggled. Backstory! See, Joel's brother Tommy used to be a Firefly, and told Marlene that if she was ever in a bind, she could trust Joel. So here we are. Everything that happens from this point forward is Tommy's fault. Marlene tells Ellie to go with Joel, and Ellie's all, "Sure, I don't want to go with him." And Joel's all, "Sure, I don't want to go with her." And Marlene and Tess are all, "Whatever." Seeing that argument is lost, Ellie and Joel head to a safe house while Tess escorts Marlene back to the Firefly base. Joel and Ellie wait, and nothing really happens other than Joel asking Ellie why she's such a big deal that the Fireflies want her smuggled out of the city, to which he doesn't get an answer. Tess finally returns and they all head off through some tunnels that lead them to the outskirts of the city, only to immediately be caught. You all are terrible smugglers. As the soldiers scan each of them for the virus, Ellie gets all stabby-stabby before taking the butt of a gun to the face. Luckily for her, Joel and Tess are there to save the day. They then find out the reason why Ellie is such a big deal. She's infected, and has been for a while. Actually, way longer than she should without having turned. Turns out she's immune from the virus, which is unheard of. And the Fireflies believe she is the key to finding the cure. But there's no time to think about or discuss that because they gotta run. They manage to get away, likely by killing absolutely everyone. No wonder this game is called The Last of Us. Joel killed everyone else. The three make their way to the rendezvous point, dodging zombies and living mushroom people along the way. These fun guys are called clickers, and they are attracted to sound. So prepare for a lot of sneaky, stabby. You'll also solve puzzles on how to get over obstacles, which really shouldn't be obstacles because you could just easily climb on the hood to get over this. But video games. Several thrilling action set pieces later, and the three have reached their destination, the city capitol building. Unfortunately, the human rebel Fireflies have lifespans that appear to be about as long as an actual Firefly, aka not long. Joel thinks the mission is now over and that they should head back, but Tess says he should keep going and should go to Tommy because since he used to be a Firefly, he'll know what to do. That's a stretch, but sure. Wondering why Tess is suddenly so gung-ho for this, Joel finds out that during one of those action set pieces I glossed over, Tess was bit and is now infected. And since the Fireflies here are dead, they won't be making a cure in time to save her. But there's no time to think about or dwell on this because just then the military arrives. Seeing as she's a goner no matter what, Tess decides to sacrifice herself so that Joel and Ellie can escape. It's sad and it sucks, and damn it, game, stop making me like people and then killing them! Ellie and Joel make their way past the military by giving them nice, stabby hugs, and end up in the subway tunnels where Ellie proves she's able to resist the spores that cause people to get infected. Joel's all, "What?" And she's all, "Sure." Also, you find out Ellie can't swim, which probably wasn't a major thing she needed to learn in the zombie apocalypse, but now that means Joel has to help her find ways to get across bodies of water. Thankfully, there's a wood pallet that's able to support Ellie just lying around every single body of water, but you know, if I spent this whole video pointing out weird occurrences that are necessary to your character's survival in this game, we'd be here all day, so I'm just gonna ignore this stuff for now. Now that they're safely away, the two have a conversation where Joel lays down the rules of this little road trip. 1. No mentioning Tess, because that's still a bit fresh. 2. No getting personal, because Joel has some issues about girls who are reminiscent of his daughter. And 3. No mentioning her whole immunity thing to anyone because it sounds a bit crazy. So to get to Tommy, they're gonna need a car because Tommy ain't local. Fortunately, there's a man nearby named Bill who owes Joel a favor and can probably get them one. Unfortunately for them, Bill is a bit psychotic and loves to leave traps lying around for zombies and the like, which sadly includes you. Okay, I know this is a video game on a screen and I'm not actually upside down, but this is still disorienting. And then you gotta shoot zombies like this. I'm bad enough at this, guys. I didn't need disorientation on top of it. You fend off the onslaught long enough for Ellie to cut you down, but that doesn't really help anything. Luckily, before you're bit, Bill shows up to save you in the nick of time. I'm sorry, that was bad, I know. They all escape the zombies, but Bill isn't exactly the trusting sort. And Ellie doesn't appreciate being cuffed to a pipe. They're gonna get along just fine. Joel calls in his favor, but Bill doesn't have a car that works. However, there are some parts lying around the city that he could use to get one up and running. So off they go. Several zombie attacks later, and they find themselves in a cellar where they pick up some more gear. Ellie asks for a gun, and Joel says, "Nah." And Ellie's all,
I can handle myself.
and Joel's all, "Nah. Remember this, it'll come back later." Bill tells Joel that he should ditch the girl, as having someone you care about is just another way to get yourself killed. But Joel insists they keep going.
Don't touch.
See, they love each other. And off they go again, looting abandoned houses and snuggling some zombies. They're so cuddly. Turns out they're headed to the local high school to grab a battery out of a military vehicle that had crashed there a while back. Unfortunately, things can never go right for our heroes. Yeah, we'll call them that, as someone else beat them to the battery. They're forced to make their way through the school, only to be confronted by the school bully who has possibly the worst case of acne I have ever seen. Or he's a zombie, I don't know. They escape and find their way to a nearby house where Bill and Joel argue about what to do next, before noticing the elephant in the room. Don't know how we missed that. This was Bill's partner, Frank, who hung himself after being bitten. I didn't even know the guy, and it's sad. Damn it, game! Just then, they hear something from the garage. Seems Ellie found herself a truck with some juice left. So it was Frank that took the battery from the school. I knew it. However, the truck won't just start. It needs a bit of a literal push. So Joel and Bill push the truck and fight off zombies while Ellie attempts to start her up. Eventually she does, and once again they manage to get away. They drop Bill off in his little booby-trapped town, and the two head off towards Tommy. Around Pittsburgh, Joel finds out Ellie stole some magazines from Bill's place. Mostly just some comics and,
Whoa! How the hell would he even walk around with that thing?
I'll answer that. It's like a fruit by the foot, you just roll it up and hope you don't get excited.
Oh. Why are these all stuck together?
Glue, gum, peanut butter, say anything! None of this really furthers the story, it's just a bonding moment for our characters. I thought it was funny and I left it in, shut up. Upon hitting the city, they find the road forward is blocked, causing Joel to have to take a detour, where they come across a man who is seemingly in need of help. But Joel is too smart for this obvious trap and floors it. Got him! 20 points! Is that a bus? The ambushers are on them before they can even get out of the car, but Joel quickly gets his point across and puts it into their thick skulls that he ain't gonna be having none of that shit. Turns out Pittsburgh is just full of crazy people who want Joel and Ellie dead. I'd make a joke here, but I don't know anything about Pittsburgh, so let's just say this may or may not be true in the modern day. Joel murder sprees his way through the streets until they eventually make their way to a hotel. While trying to get through an elevator shaft, things go downhill pretty quickly. The two are separated and Joel finds himself in a flooded basement. Well, that's creepy. Joel makes his way back upstairs, but just as he gets close to where he left Ellie, he's caught off guard. And when it looks like all hope is lost and Joel's mission is gonna be, well, dead in the water. Told you to remember. You'd think Joel might be a little more thankful at this point and reconsidering that whole not giving Ellie a gun thing, but nope. In fact, he's kind of a jerk about it. That is until a few minutes later when he gives her a rifle and tells her to cover him as he clears a path through a large group of enemies. Ellie does pretty well, and now that she's proved herself, Joel finally lets up a bit and gives her a pistol. Aw, they're growing closer. That's called character development, folks. But things can never just go right for these two, as the Pittsburghians have a Humvee with a turret on it. Mental note. Don't visit Pittsburgh. So now they have to dodge that, because killing a Humvee isn't really an option. But if Joel could, he would find a way. After losing the Humvee, Joel and Ellie climb into a supposedly abandoned apartment that isn't so abandoned. Joel and this guy have a small tussle before finding out they're on the same side. The big guy is Henry, and the little guy is his brother Sam. They were part of a larger group that came to the city looking for supplies, only to be ambushed as well. Henry tells Joel that they're headed to a radio tower just outside of town to meet up with any other survivors from their group. And then they're headed west to meet up with the Fireflies, just like Joel and Ellie. But the evil Pittsburghians have set up a checkpoint preventing them from leaving, so the four decide to team up and attack at night when the enemy numbers are lower. In the meantime, Ellie and Sam have struck up a quick friendship, because it's just that easy for kids. Trusting, naive little bastards. Nighttime comes and they all head out to break through the checkpoint. It goes about as you might expect. Murderific! It's okay! I'm the good guy! They manage to break through, but at the first sign of trouble, Henry and Sam split, leaving Ellie and Joel to fend for themselves against the Humvee and about 24 enemies. Ah! Let's go faster, let's go faster, let's go faster! To escape them, they have no choice but to jump off a bridge. And considering Ellie can't swim, that's not ideal. Joel tries to think of another way, but Ellie makes the decision for both of them. I sure hope there's a wooden pallet down here! Joel manages to save Ellie from drowning, and a rock saves Joel from consciousness. Joel wakes up to find Henry and Sam have rejoined the party. Naturally, he's a little pissed off about the whole leaving them to die thing, but he relents when he finds out Henry came back for them and saved them from the river. They all make friends and head off toward the radio tower. Along the way, they find a safe house, but much to their chagrin, it's empty. While investigating deeper, Joel accidentally triggers a trap that separates the four, leaving Joel with Sam and Henry with Ellie. And a ton of zombies. Why can't things just go right? Eventually the four find each other again, but
We gotta keep running.
Ellie and Henry brought ads. They race to an exit only to find a locked door. Ellie and Sam go out a window so they can hopefully open the door from the outside, while Henry and Joel have a final showdown with the zombie horde. Survival tip: during the zombie apocalypse, you should always use the front door. Sometimes people leave a note.
Oh, are you f***ing kidding me?
As our quartet finally nears the radio tower, one final obstacle stands in their way. A sniper and roughly a billion other enemies, or at least it felt that way. Joel tells everyone else to stay put and makes his way to the sniper roost. He and the sniper work things out in a calm, non-aggressive manner. And now, Joel's in charge! He proceeds to snipe down dozens of enemies, and even manages to take out the Humvee. See? Told you he'd find a way. Though that does cause some random zombies to pop out and give Henry, Ellie, and Sam a good scare. Also, exploding, crashing Humvees and sniper shots are kinda loud, so even more zombies show up, prompting our heroes to flee. They find a home to rest in for the night and spend time bonding. However, Sam appears to be a bit maudlin. He's distant, quiet, contemplating whether zombies are still actually people, what it's like to turn into a zombie, if there's a heaven. I'm sure he's fine. And he's bit. Geez, how could I have guessed? They all wake up the next morning and Ellie goes to check on Sam.
Sam?
I'm sure he's fine. Sam attacks Ellie, and as Joel attempts to save her, Henry stops him, but then turns and kills Sam himself. Distraught over just having to kill his own brother, Henry kills himself. Damn it, game! Stop that! Sometime later, Joel and Ellie find themselves at a hydroelectric dam run by Tommy and his wife Marie. Ooh, they have horsies. Pretty horsey. Joel and Tommy head off to go do some work and talk, while Ellie hangs out with Marie. Joel tells Tommy the gist of the entire story and tries to convince him to take Ellie the rest of the way. Tommy refuses, but before they can argue it out, as is this game's fashion, the dam is attacked.
You still remember how to kill, right?
Does he remember how to kill? Oh, that's a good one. They defend the dam, and conversations about what to do with Ellie begin again.
Absolutely not. You tell him to go find somebody else.
That was short. Ellie asks Joel what's going on, and he says they'll talk about it later. She kinda figures it out though, and in a fit of anger, takes off on one of the horses. Joel and Tommy go after her and track her to a nearby house. Joel goes upstairs to find Ellie, and the two finally have it out. Ellie confesses that Joel is the only person in her life that hasn't left her or died, that she feels safe with him and doesn't want to split up because that will just make her more scared. She also confronts him about his daughter, having learned about her from Marie. She tells Joel that she's sorry, but she's not his daughter. Joel agrees that Ellie is not his daughter, and restates that they need to go their separate ways. Clearly, Joel's still got some issues here. But before they can argue it out, you guessed it, the house is attacked. Son of a, can't anyone think about something or have a conversation in this game without having to kill people first? Gall! However, this little bout of killing apparently causes Joel to change his mind, as he eventually tells Tommy to head back to camp while he and Ellie continue on. Tommy tells them that they'll find the Fireflies at the University of Eastern Colorado, so off they ride. They reach the college, which is full of zombies, or possibly just Colorado college students hopped up on the marijuana. You kids and your drugs. Also, they find the building where the Fireflies are supposed to be. It's empty, except for some mean old monkeys, and Mr. Skullhead here. Fortunately, Scully left a message stating that the Fireflies have gone to a hospital in Salt Lake City. They start to contemplate this, but...
Get down!
Oh, come on! Joel and Ellie work their way back through the building, but this time the game raises the bar a bit. By shoving a bar through Joel. Now you'll be fine, shake it off. Luckily, Ellie has learned a thing or two from watching Joel and is now a bit of a badass herself. She manages to get Joel out, back onto their horse, and away from the college, even after taking a major blow to the head. See, Joel, she shook it off. Sometime later, and we catch up with... Thumper? Oh, he's so cute. Ah! So it's winter and Ellie is out hunting animals for food. She tracks a buck that she shot into a nearby town. A town with people in it who don't seem to want her dead on sight. That's new. This is David and James. David tries to convince Ellie to let them have the stag to feed their larger group. And Ellie's all, "Sure." And David's all, "Sure, we'll trade you for it." And Ellie's all, "Sure." Ellie offers to trade the stag for medicine. David agrees and sends James back to their camp to get the medicine while he stays with Ellie. They drag the stag into a nearby house and set up a fire to keep warm. They even start to have a nice chat, which means... The gunshots attract other zombies in the area, causing Ellie and David to have to bunker down and defend themselves. They kill all of the infected and head back to where they left the buck. And David gets to talking again. He tells a story about how he sent a few of his men out to a local town looking for some food. However, only a few returned, claiming the rest were killed by a crazy man who was traveling with a little girl. That could be anybody. Ellie freaks out right before James returns with the medicine. David talks him down and tells him to give Ellie the medicine. She takes it and runs back to the house she's currently staying in. Turns out the medicine is for Joel, who's not doing so well. She gives him the antibiotics and heads to sleep. The next morning, she's awakened by the sound of people outside. It appears to be David's crew out looking for her. She takes off on the horse, hoping to lead them away from Joel, losing the horse in the process. You know what? I didn't really know the horse and I'm sad. Damn it, game. She continues to run on foot, proving she's learned a whole lot from Joel, before she's eventually captured by David, who chokes her out. She wakes up in a cell where she learns the big secret. David's crew appear to be cannibals. David brings Ellie a meal and tries to convince her to join up with them, getting a bit creepier in the process. But Ellie likes playing hard to get. Really hard. Sadly, she isn't able to escape and is left there to contemplate what's coming. Meanwhile, Joel finally wakes up and goes looking for Ellie, and quickly figures out something is wrong because people immediately start shooting at him. What, does he just have one of those faces or something? He captures two of his assailants and politely inquires as to Ellie's whereabouts. He has the prisoner point out where they're keeping Ellie on a map, and thanks him by giving him a warm hug, and practices his chiropractic skills. Needs some work. The other guy, he just bashes over the head with a pipe. Joel's going all Liam Neeson on these punks. Ellie, on the other hand, is having a bit of a worse time, as David and James are about to chop her up. She bites David and then distracts them by saying she's infected, which would mean David's now infected since she bit him. She proves it by having them look at her bite mark, and while they argue about it, she stabs James and flees in the confusion. She manages to dodge and kill most of David's men before he finds her in an abandoned restaurant. This is what it's like every time I go to Applebee's. In their struggle, the building catches fire before they're both knocked unconscious. Joel kills his way through the town looking for Ellie. Like father, like surrogate daughter, I guess. Is that a thing? Eventually spotting the burning restaurant. Ellie wakes up and sees David's machete underneath a chair. She starts to crawl towards it, but David hasn't given up just yet. As he starts to strangle her, Ellie finally reaches the machete and cuts David down to size. She's got some issues. Just then, Joel shows up to grab Ellie, and they take off. Months later, the two have finally reached Salt Lake City. It's an oddly beautiful place. Unlike Pittsburgh! Sorry, Pittsburgh. The whole trip through the city becomes very sentimental for both of them, with Ellie giving Joel a picture of him and his daughter, and Joel suggesting they turn around and go live out their lives in Tommy's settlement. But Ellie says she'd rather this not all be for nothing, so they continue on. As they get close to the hospital, they're forced to use a bus as a bridge to get over some rapid water. And what's our rule, folks? Say it with me. Nothing can ever go right. Very good. When Joel jumps down onto the bus, it shifts and starts going downriver, causing him to fall inside and get stuck. Ellie attempts to save him, but they're both pulled underwater when the bus tips over. And Ellie can't swim, and there doesn't appear to be any wooden pallets lying around. Joel manages to get to her, but she isn't breathing. As he attempts to revive her, soldiers arrive and knock Joel out. 'Cause sure, he looks like a threat, attempting to revive a little girl. Everyone in this apocalypse sucks. Joel wakes up in the hospital and is greeted by Marlene. You remember her? The Firefly lady from the beginning of the game? No? Don't blame me, it's been a while. She apologizes for the whole bashing of the head thing and tells him Ellie is fine. He asks to go see her, but Marlene says he can't, as Ellie's currently being prepped for surgery. It's cool though. The doctors just need to remove the mutated infection from Ellie so they can engineer a vaccine. There is a slight problem though. The part they need to remove is all of her brain. Joel doesn't really like that. Marlene tries to convince him that this is for the greater good, but Joel calls bullshit. She's all, whatever, and leaves a guard to watch over him. One guard for Joel? Yeah, okay, that'll work.
I say keep walking.
Told ya. Joel once again politely inquires as to Ellie's whereabouts.
I ain't got time for this.
And Joel is done f***ing around. He proceeds to John Wick his way through the hospital, slaughtering everyone in his path, eventually reaching the operating room. He grabs Ellie and runs out of the hospital, dodging enemies along the way. It's an oddly sweet moment. He loses the enemy by getting on an elevator, but is stopped by Marlene once he gets off. Marlene tries one final time to convince Joel to give Ellie up. He appears to contemplate this. And then he's in a car. Ooh, glad I gave that girl up. What a crazy time that was. Nah, just kidding. Ellie wakes up in the back seat and asks what happened. Joel lies, telling Ellie that the Fireflies had found dozens of immune people and that none of their experiments have worked, so they've stopped looking for a cure. In reality, Joel told Marlene no the only way he knows how. Marlene begs for her life, but Joel knows she'll just come looking for them. And he won't have that. We cut back as Joel and Ellie's car breaks down just outside of Tommy's outpost. As they make the rest of their way on foot, Ellie stops to tell Joel the story of the night she was bitten. Turns out she wasn't alone that night, and both her and her best friend, possibly girlfriend, Riley, were bitten. They decided to simply wait it out in a romantic gesture, to wait for their lives to end together. And naturally, that time never came for Ellie. And with so many other people in her life dying because of this virus, she has to know if Joel was telling the truth about the Fireflies and her immunity. Joel swears he was telling the truth. And that's where we end our story. So hopefully you now feel like you're all caught up. There is some DLC to the game that covers the story with Riley and Ellie in more detail, and some events between when Joel was injured and the death of Thumper, but we might talk about that another night. For now, it's time for bed. I'll tell you another story soon, alright? Alright. And remember, don't ever try to think or have a conversation during the zombie apocalypse. Otherwise, you'll be forced to kill hundreds of people. Okay, good night. That is until a few minutes later when he gives her a rifle and tells her to cover him as he clears a large path through an enemy. It's so long. I'll miss you, voice. Ah.